The leader of the aliens gave a soft, resonant note, then paused, as if debating whether to step closer. Slowly, she lowered her hands, allowing the other guards to do the same. They had been watching humans with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism, and now, in front of their eyes, one human had done something miraculous without understanding exactly how. The princess finally spoke, her voice soft and melodic, yet broken by weakness. "Thank you." It was in her language, but somehow Elias understood the sentiment. It was not a common word for gratitude. It carried the weight of survival, of life itself being spared. Elias smiled gently. "You're safe now. That's what matters." For the first time, the alien family relaxed. They still kept a close watch, but their movements were no longer tense. The princess leaned slightly on Elias, and he could feel the subtle rise and fall of her chest, steady now, full of renewed strength. It amazed him that something so fragile yet resilient could exist, and that his touch, his simple act of care, had triggered it. The sun began to dip behind the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of gold and violet. The clearing glowed faintly in the dim light, the energy of the planet visible to anyone who knew how to look. Elias and the princess sat together, surrounded by the cautious yet mesmerized family, and he felt a profound sense of connection, not just to her, but to this world, this life, and the potential of humanity to bridge worlds in ways beyond technology or power. He did not know what the future held. He did not know why humans possessed this subtle resonance with life, this ability to heal without understanding. All he knew was that he had reached for the dying princess, and in doing so, had opened a door to a bond that could change the course of both their civilizations. As night fell, stars reflecting in the twin moons above, Elias looked at the princess and whispered, "You're going to be all right. I promise." She smiled faintly in reply, her eyes shimmering like liquid gold in the moonlight. The alien family watched silently, their earlier astonishment replaced with awe, and perhaps, for the first time, respect. Somewhere deep inside, Elias realized that this moment was not just about healing one life. It was about the potential of all life, the ways humans could touch the universe, not through force, but through empathy, courage, and understanding. And as he sat there, with the glowing forest around them and the princess slowly recovering beside him, he felt a quiet but unshakable hope. Humanity had reached far beyond its home, and here, on this alien world, it had already begun to make a difference. The morning sun rose slowly over the glowing forests of the alien planet, casting gentle light across the clearing where Captain Elias Marin had spent the night. The twin suns painted the sky in pale shades of rose and lavender, and the air shimmered with the quiet hum of life. Elias sat beside the Princess Lyra, who had slept peacefully through the night, her breathing steady and calm. He observed her quietly, marveling at the subtle changes in her appearance. Her injuries, once deep and painful, had almost completely healed. The faint marks on her arms had faded, and the soft glow along her skin pulsed rhythmically, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. He could still feel the warmth and energy that had flowed through him last night, and a quiet curiosity stirred within him. Humans had never encountered anything like this, yet here it was, happening naturally, almost as if the universe itself had chosen to respond to his presence. Lyra stirred and opened her eyes, blinking in the gentle sunlight. She looked at Elias with a mixture of gratitude and amazement. Her gaze seemed to hold a question, unspoken but urgent. How was this possible? Elias smiled softly. "I don't know," he admitted, "but you're going to be all right. That's what matters." She nodded faintly, her fingers brushing lightly against his hand in silent thanks. From the edge of the clearing, the alien family watched closely. Their curiosity had not diminished overnight. If anything, it had grown. The leader, tall and regal, stepped closer, her amber eyes fixed on Elias. She made a low, melodic tone that reverberated through the clearing. Elias listened carefully, sensing the meaning behind it. It was a question, asked with cautious respect. Why could a human do what even their most skilled healers could not? Elias took a deep breath. "I do not know why it happens," he said slowly. "I am only trying to help." He hoped the sincerity in his voice would reach them. The princess leaned slightly against him, a subtle gesture of trust that seemed to resonate with the family. They exchanged soft tones among themselves, as if communicating through a language beyond words. Finally, the leader approached, stepping into the sunlight that touched Lyra. She held out a hand, a gesture of invitation rather than threat. Elias nodded and rose slowly, keeping his movements calm and deliberate. He extended his own hand toward hers, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. The gentle pulse of energy that had begun last night seemed to stir again, filling the clearing with a quiet radiance. The leader's eyes widened, and she let out a series of soft melodic sounds. Elias listened carefully, recognizing patterns in the tones. Slowly the meaning became clear. They were offering a chance to explain, to connect, to show that humans could be allies, not intruders. Elias nodded, understanding the significance. He would accept this chance. Over the next few hours, he began to learn more about Lyra's people. They were unlike any civilization humans had encountered. Their society valued harmony, knowledge, and the careful balance of life. Healing was a sacred art, performed only under precise conditions and with rare resources. Yet here, a human had catalyzed the process without even realizing it. Elias and Lyra spent the morning walking through the forest, the alien family following at a respectful distance. Lyra moved cautiously at first, still regaining her strength, but soon she began to guide Elias to areas of the forest that seemed significant to her people. She pointed to pools of water that shimmered with internal light, and trees whose leaves resonated with faint music when touched. Elias listened and observed, feeling a deep sense of wonder. At one point, Lyra paused beside a tall tree with a trunk that pulsed softly in the morning light. She placed her hand on it, and the glow spread along the bark, then into the roots that reached deep into the earth. She looked at Elias and smiled, a gesture that seemed both shy and proud. "This is where I draw strength," she said, her voice soft but clear. Elias nodded, feeling a subtle warmth radiate through his own body as he reached out and touched the tree beside her. The moment was brief, but it left a lasting impression. Elias realized that humans had an ability to connect not only with other beings but with life itself in ways that were intuitive and unforced. He did not understand the science of it, nor did he need to. What mattered was that the connection existed, and it was powerful. Later, as the suns reached their peak, the alien family gathered around them in a circle. Elias could feel their curiosity, their cautious hope. The leader spoke again, her melodic tones flowing like a gentle river. Elias responded as best he could, explaining that humans valued life, understanding, and the courage to help when others were in need. He spoke slowly, choosing words that carried meaning beyond language. Lyra's eyes shone as she listened, and Elias could see that she understood not just his words, but his intention. Her family exchanged tones again, softer this time, almost conversational. Elias realized they were beginning to trust him. It was not complete trust, not yet, but it was a start. As the day progressed, Elias noticed small changes in the forest. Flowers seemed to open more fully as he walked past, and the soft hum of energy felt warmer and more inviting. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. He mentioned it to Lyra, who nodded knowingly. "You affect the world differently," she said, "not because of strength, but because of the way you care." The statement resonated deeply with Elias. On Earth, humans often measured worth by power or technology. Yet here, his simple desire to help had created something extraordinary. It was a reminder that the human way, empathy, creativity, courage, could achieve wonders even among civilizations far more advanced in science and skill. The afternoon brought new challenges. A disturbance in the forest caught their attention, a small grove where energy readings were unstable, threatening the delicate balance of life. Lyra's family had already begun assessing the situation, but they hesitated, unsure if humans could assist safely. Elias stepped forward. "Let me try," he said. His voice carried quiet determination. The leader hesitated, but then nodded, allowing him to approach. As he reached the center of the grove, Elias felt the energy flowing through the area. It was wild, unpredictable, but not hostile. He closed his eyes and focused, thinking about the life around him. The trees, the plants, the creatures hidden in the shadows. Slowly he extended his hands, reaching out with intention rather than force. A gentle warmth spread from his palms, flowing into the disturbed grove. The energy responded, it shifted, calming, settling into a rhythm that resonated with life itself. The alien family gasped softly, astonished by the humans' innate ability to influence the ecosystem without tools or technology. Lyra's eyes widened, and she reached out to touch his arm in encouragement. "It's beautiful," she whispered. By the time the suns began to lower toward the horizon, the grove had stabilized. Enner learned about Earth. Humans were imaginative, curious, and courageous. They often solved problems in ways that no one else could imagine. While Zytherans prized logic, precision, and tradition, humans seemed to blend intuition and creativity in ways that were unpredictable, yet effective. Lyra admired that spirit. Perhaps it was that unpredictability that had made her heart so restless at the thought of a marriage she did not desire. The sound of footsteps made her turn. A young servant approached, carrying a tray of fragrant fruits and sparkling water. He paused, bowing politely. "Princess Lyra, the preparations for the banquet are complete. The humans will arrive shortly." Lyra took the tray, offering a small smile. "Thank you. Please tell the chef that the decorations are exquisite." "Every detail is perfect." Her words were polite, but her mind was elsewhere. She thanked the servant, who quickly bowed and retreated into the shadows, leaving her alone with her thoughts again. She thought of Captain Elias, the human who was soon to enter her life not as a guest, but as a husband by decree. She had read his reports, his personal letters, and even observed him from the stars during his journey to Zethera. He was disciplined, courteous, and intelligent, traits that any parent would admire. Yet there was no spark of familiarity, no shared laughter, or whispered secret. To love him as a partner seemed impossible. Not because he lacked worth, but because she had never met him as a person beyond the words on paper. Lyra sat beside the fountain, letting the cool water trickle over her fingers. She thought of her father, whose vision of unity was born from duty, responsibility, and the belief that alliances ensured safety. And yet, she felt that he had overlooked something essential: the human heart. It was not enough to measure worth by skill, courage, or intellect. There had to be connection, understanding, and choice. Without those, even the brightest alliance could feel hollow. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft breeze carrying the scent of the night blooms. She closed her eyes, allowing the fragrance to calm her racing mind. In that stillness, she realized something crucial. If she wished to honor both her people and herself, she could not simply comply. She had to speak, to act, and to guide others toward a future that celebrated more than obedience. It had to celebrate respect, understanding, and mutual growth. The first stars began to appear in the sky, tiny sparks that reminded her of countless possibilities. In her mind, she imagined Earth, not just as a planet, but as a people, full of curiosity, kindness, and ingenuity. They were not perfect, far from it, but there was a resilience in them that inspired her. Perhaps, she thought, the true strength of humanity was not in their ability to conquer, but in their ability to adapt, to think, and to act wisely even when the path was uncertain. Lyra rose from the fountain, her resolve firming with every step. The night would not last forever, And soon she would face the moment that had been decided for her. But she would meet it not with fear or submission. She would meet it with clarity, courage, and respect for herself, for her people, and for the humans who had unknowingly sparked this determination within her. Back in the Grand Hall, the lights dimmed as the first human ships entered Zitharan space. Their arrival was marked by a gentle hum, a sound unlike any Zitharan vessel. It was subtle but confident, carrying with it the weight of a species unafraid to explore the unknown. The court murmured in awe, while Lyra watched silently from her chamber above. She felt a flicker of anticipation, not for the marriage itself, but for the opportunity to understand the humans, to witness the qualities that had earned their place among the stars. As the night deepened, Lyra sat by her window once more, her reflection mirrored in the glass. She saw a young woman caught between duty and desire, tradition and choice. Yet in her eyes, there was determination, a quiet fire that would not be extinguished. She knew the coming days would test her in ways she could not yet predict, but she also knew that whatever challenges awaited, she would face them with courage. For Lyra understood something that her father, in all his wisdom, had not yet fully realized. Strength was not measured by obedience or sacrifice alone. True strength came from the power to choose, to honor one's heart while respecting the hearts of others. And in that moment, as the twin moons shone down upon her, Lyra vowed that she would never let fear dictate her actions. She would be the author of her own destiny, and in doing so she would shape a future where humans and Zitharans alike could stand together, not out of obligation, but out of mutual respect and admiration. The palace was quiet now, save for the gentle hum of the arriving ships and the soft rustle of night winds through the gardens. Lyra felt a sense of calm settle over her, not because the challenge ahead was gone, but because she had embraced her own strength. She understood that the next day, when Captain Elias finally stepped into her world, would be pivotal. It would not be about obedience or protocol. It would be about understanding, dialogue, and the spark of connection that could turn two worlds toward a shared future. And so, as the stars glittered above Zathera and the twin moons cast their serene glow, Princess Lyra allowed herself a small, hopeful smile. The path ahead was uncertain, but she was ready. The humans were arriving, and with them, the possibility of something extraordinary. And though tears had threatened her resolve earlier, now they were replaced with quiet determination. She would not be a pawn. She would be a leader, not only of her people, but of the alliance that might one day redefine the stars themselves. The night deepened, carrying with it the silent promise of new beginnings. Lyra remained at her window, watching the soft lights of the human ships as they approached. Her heart was steady, her mind clear, and her spirit resolute. She did not yet know the challenges that awaited, nor the friendships that would bloom. But she knew one thing: the choices she made would matter. The future of Zithara, the human visitors, and perhaps the galaxy itself might hinge on a single decision made by a young princess who refused to yield her heart to command. And in that quiet moment, Lyra understood that sometimes the greatest acts of courage were not battles fought with weapons, but battles fought with honesty, integrity, and the unwavering will to follow one's own heart. The morning sun spilled over the crystalline towers of Zithara, sending golden reflections across the city. Light danced on every surface, creating a dazzling display that made the entire palace glow like a beacon. Princess Lyra, dressed in a flowing gown of soft lavender, moved quietly through the corridors, her steps measured but her mind restless. Today was the day she would meet Captain Elias, the human her father had decreed she must marry. Despite the formal nature of the occasion, she felt a strange sense of curiosity. Humans fascinated her. Their unpredictable nature and boldness were unlike anything she had ever known in Cythera. The human delegation had arrived the night before, and the palace had been filled with the gentle hum of their ships. From her window, Lyra had observed them preparing for the day's formalities. Unlike the Zitharans, Humans moved with an ease and flexibility that was almost playful. They carried themselves with confidence, but without arrogance. Their gestures were not rehearsed, yet they conveyed respect and attentiveness. She had read about human creativity, their capacity to solve problems, and their deep sense of morality, yet seeing them in person was something else entirely. Varys appeared at her side, as he often did. "Princess," he said softly, bowing. "The humans are ready to meet you. They have requested a private introduction before the official banquet." Lyra nodded, taking a deep breath. "Very well. I want to observe them, not just greet them. I want to understand who they are before I speak with them formally." Varys's eyes twinkled with approval. "Wisely spoken. Humans are more than their reports. Their character can only be understood through interaction." They walked together through the palace gardens, the morning light revealing the subtle movements of glowing plants and fountains that mirrored the twin moons of last night. Lyra paused at a flower that pulsed softly in rhythm with her heartbeat, marveling at its delicate beauty. Humans, she thought, would likely find joy in such simplicity. Unlike Zitherans, who often valued perfection and symmetry, humans seemed to find wonder in imperfection and surprise. They arrived at a small hall near the outer gardens, where the humans waited. Captain Elias stepped forward as Lyra entered. He was taller than most Zitherans, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold both intelligence and curiosity. His uniform was neat but not ornate, designed for practicality rather than display. Lyra observed him silently for a moment, noting his posture, his calm breathing, and the gentle confidence he radiated. "Princess Lyra," Elias said, bowing slightly. "It is an honor to meet you." His voice was clear, warm, and unassuming, carrying no hint of superiority. Lyra inclined her head politely. "Captain Elias, welcome to Zithera." She paused, studying him closely. "I have read about your journey and the reports you submitted. I am impressed by your attention to detail and your observations of our culture." Elias smiled faintly. "Thank you, Princess. I wanted to understand your people, not just follow protocol. I believe that knowledge and respect must come first, before any decisions are made." Lyra's heart stirred at his words. There was sincerity in his tone, a human honesty that could not be faked. Zitherans were trained from birth to present perfection, to hide uncertainty or doubt, but humans seemed to embrace it. It was unsettling and inspiring at the same time. They walked together through the hall, conversing quietly. Lyra asked about Earth, about his experiences, and about how humans approached challenges. Elias spoke of their cities, their inventions, and their struggles. He described how humans often solved problems by combining logic with creativity, intuition with experimentation. He admitted mistakes they had made, failures that had taught them lessons, and triumphs that had come from persistence rather than sheer force. Lyra listened, fascinated. Humans were not flawless, but their imperfections gave them strength. They adapted, learned, and found new solutions where others might see obstacles. She realized that this adaptability was what made them formidable allies and remarkable beings in their own right. As they reached a balcony overlooking the gardens, Elias paused, observing the glowing flowers below. "Your world is extraordinary," he said. "I have seen many planets, but Zythera is alive in a way I cannot fully explain. Even the smallest details seem connected to everything else. It is beautiful." Lyra smiled softly. "It is, and yet beauty alone does not guide us. We must make choices, difficult choices, that affect entire worlds. Sometimes those choices are not easy, even when they seem necessary." Elias nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "I understand. On Earth, we face similar dilemmas. Often the right choice is not the easiest, and sometimes the most important choices are the ones that honor both principle and heart. Lyra felt a flicker of respect for him. In just a few minutes, she had recognized a quality in him that many Zitherans lacked: the ability to balance duty with conscience. He did not seek to impress or manipulate. He sought understanding. They spoke at length about philosophy, ethics, and the nature of leadership. Elias shared stories of human councils that made decisions by consensus, of inventors who challenged established norms, and of communities that thrived because individuals were encouraged to think independently. Lyra shared her own thoughts about Zithera, the weight of responsibility, and the pressure to conform to tradition. For the first time, she felt as though she was speaking to someone who could comprehend her perspective, even across the gulf of species and culture. After hours of conversation, they walked to the palace library, a vast chamber filled with floating crystal shelves that held records, stories, and knowledge from across Zithera's history. Lyra reached for a delicate tome, and Elias watched with fascination as she opened it carefully, revealing illustrations and writings that shimmered with holographic light. "These records," Elias said softly, "show the depth of your people's wisdom. It is remarkable. I hope I can learn from them while sharing what humans have discovered as well."
Lyra nodded. Knowledge should be shared, not hoarded.
Our worlds can grow stronger through understanding, not dominance. That is why I cannot simply marry for duty alone. The future is larger than any single union. Elias looked at her with admiration. "I respect that, Princess. It takes courage to prioritize principle over obligation. I am glad to meet someone who sees strength in understanding and cooperation, not just authority or decree." Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. She had expected tension, awkwardness, and perhaps disappointment. Instead, she found clarity and even friendship. It did not mean she loved him, nor he her, but it meant that they could be allies, and perhaps, in time, something more meaningful if choice allowed it. The library quieted as the palace servants moved through, ensuring preparations for the banquet continued without interruption. Lyra and Elias sat by a window, watching sunlight filter through the crystal walls. The warmth of the light mirrored a subtle feeling of hope that neither of them fully understood yet. Humans had a way of inspiring others, not through force, but through vision, kindness, and ingenuity. Lyra realized that these traits, the very essence of humanity, were what made her respect Elias, even as she resisted the notion of marriage. "Princess," Elias said after a pause, "I do not wish to overstep, but may I ask, what is it that you hope for most?" She had been asked similar questions countless times, but none with such genuine curiosity. "I hope," she said finally, "that our worlds can work together in a way that respects each other's strengths, that humans and Zitherans can build a future where choice and understanding matter more than tradition alone. And I hope to live a life where my heart and mind are not constrained by expectation." Elias smiled, not in judgment but in understanding. "That is a noble hope, one that I share. And perhaps it is the start of something greater than either of us can imagine." Time passed, and the shadows lengthened as the morning turned to afternoon. Lyra walked with Elias through the gardens once more, observing how he interacted with the flora and fauna, asking questions about the glowing plants, the fountains, and even the soft hum of Zitharan air currents. He moved with curiosity, touching nothing without permission, but always eager to learn. It reminded Lyra of why humans could be extraordinary allies, not because they sought power, but because they sought understanding. They paused by a small pond where floating crystal lilies reflected the sunlight. Elias knelt briefly, observing the way light passed through the water. "Humans have a saying," he said, "that even the smallest details can teach the greatest lessons. Your world demonstrates that perfectly." Lyra smiled. "And humans often see lessons in ways we would never expect. That is what makes you unpredictable, yes, but also remarkable. I can see why my father respects you." Ilas looked at her with quiet sincerity. "I hope that even if you reject the marriage, we can find a path to cooperation, not just for duty, but because it is right." Because both our people can benefit from trust and respect. Lyra's heart lifted. It was more than she had expected. The humans were not here simply to obey Zithran protocol. They were here to learn, to share, and to grow together. And in that, she saw hope for a future she could support, even if it meant standing against her father's command. As the afternoon deepened, Varys returned to remind Lyra of the banquet's beginning. "Princess, it is time," he said gently. "The humans are prepared and the court awaits your presence." But Lyra took a deep breath, glancing at Elias. "Thank you for your patience," she said. "I look forward to our continued discussions, Captain. There is much I wish to learn from you, and I hope we can understand each other beyond formalities." Elias bowed slightly. "The feeling is mutual, Princess. Let us approach the banquet with open minds. The ceremony may begin, but true understanding does not wait for pomp or protocol." As they entered the grand hall together, Lyra felt a quiet strength settle within her. Today, she realized, was not about marriage or duty. It was about the beginning of something far more important. The possibility that humans and Zitherans could build a connection rooted in mutual respect, curiosity, and wisdom. And in that connection, she saw a reflection of what it meant to be human at their best. Courageous, compassionate, and unafraid to think beyond boundaries. The hall was filled with light, sound, and anticipation. But Lyra's focus was clear. She would meet the humans not as a bride or a subject, but as a leader and an equal. And Captain Elias, she realized, might become not just a friend, but an inspiration for both her and her people. The first steps toward understanding had been taken, and while the path ahead would be filled with challenges, the morning had proven something important, that humans were extraordinary not because they demanded respect, but because they inspired it. Lyra smiled quietly to herself, feeling a sense of hope that she had not experienced before. Today was the beginning of a new chapter, one that promised discovery, friendship, and the quiet but undeniable strength of humanity. The palace was alive with murmurs and muted excitement as the afternoon wore on. Preparations for the banquet continued, but Princess Lyra's mind was elsewhere. Her conversation with Captain Elias had left her inspired, yet it also brought clarity to a truth she could no longer avoid. She could not marry a man she did not love, no matter the prestige or advantage such a union would bring. The very thought of obeying her father's command felt like a cage, polished and brilliant, yet still a cage. She walked through the corridors in silence, her lavender gown brushing the crystal tiles. Each Jai pulses flowed smoothly through the trees and flowers, and the creatures hidden in the underbrush emerged safely. Elias stepped back, breathing deeply. He felt tired, but fulfilled. The alien family approached cautiously, their expressions a mixture of awe and respect. The leader spoke once more, her tone softer now, almost reverent. Elias listened carefully, understanding that they were acknowledging not just his actions, but his essence, humanity's capacity to act with compassion and intuition. Lyra's smile mirrored their sentiments, and Elias realized that a bond had begun to form, fragile but strong, between humans and this alien civilization. As evening fell, Elias and Lyra returned to the clearing where they had first met. The stars began to appear, twinkling faintly through the alien sky, and the twin moons reflected their light on the glowing foliage. Lyra sat beside him, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "I am grateful," she said softly, her words carrying deep emotion, not just for healing, but for understanding. Elias nodded. "We are different, yes, but I believe that differences can bring us together, not push us apart." He looked at her family, standing quietly a short distance away. "I hope you can see that too." The alien leader stepped forward one last time, her expression unreadable but calm. She made a long, resonant tone that Elias felt more than heard. Slowly, he realized it was a gesture of acceptance, a recognition that humans, though fragile, could act in ways that were extraordinary, that could heal, stabilize, and inspire without violence. Lyra leaned lightly against him, and he placed a gentle hand on hers. Together, they watched the sky deepen into night, the stars shimmering brighter than ever. In that moment, Elias understood that the events of this day were only the beginning. The bond between humans and this alien civilization had begun, founded not on fear or force, but on courage, empathy, and the willingness to reach out and help when it mattered most. As the night deepened, Elias felt a quiet sense of purpose. Humanity had traveled far into the stars, and here, on this glowing planet,